Ready? That was
Yeah.
Doug.
Yep.
So is everyone on, or should I start, or no?
I would say give it one more minute and then we can start.
But this is you, Doug.
It's me.
You have not changed at all. Oh, there you go. That looks pretty cool.
At least I thought I was.
Okay,
You were.
Doug, let me see.
Can you give a Via's at work today, Nicole?
I cannot. She looks amazing though.
You know she's like was up all night with the stomach flu.
I know, I told her she looks skinny.
You're crazy.
Okay. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm under the weather. Sorry for my nasally sounds.
We forgive you.
Thank you. So I'm going to have Doug for this session. A lot of people are asking that this session, since it is one of the first time Doug has come full circle again in the last year in his overall prevention presentation and going more in depth with it. So we're going to be recording this webinar. We're already recording so that we can share it with you guys and you guys can share it with others. So it's definitely a more general focused webinar. And of course, we encourage you to ask specific questions when Doug is finished or while he's talking. But while in the beginning he's talking, I would suggest that you guys mute yourselves so that there's no background noise. And then if you would like to ask a question, just unmute yourself. And I'm sure Doug can deal with the spontaneous questions. Correct, Doug?
Well, yeah, but I would also say, you know, this is a curriculum that was developed in conjunction with the former head school of Sinai Akiba. So in terms of sharing, just understand that this is our curriculum that we, you know, that we use in school. So not to be, you know, taking it off and using it on your own school stuff. Okay?
Great.
Yep.
Last thing, will everyone just, I'll start. Everyone just kind of introduce yourself, just so we know who's on. There's a few phone calls on, and I'm sure a lot of people are planning on joining, letting me know they'll be in around 10:15, 10:20, so don't be surprised when more people come on. So I know we have Evie. Evie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Evie. I think I know everybody here, except for, is 516, is that Jody?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Jody.
What's up, Jody?
Hi. Hello.
Evie. I'm Nicole. Anna, would you like to go next? Oh, we can't hear you. Doug, mute your notifications.
I don't know how to mute just notifications.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Anna. I'm from New Jersey.
Hi, Anna. Rhonda, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rhonda from Metro West, New Jersey, JCC.
Ira? Everyone knows Ira. He's there. Oh, there he goes. Ira? Okay, we'll come back to Ira. Katie?
Hi, Katie Crystal from Boca Raton, Florida.
There's Ira. Ira, you want to just reintroduce yourself? His sound isn't working. That's Ira. He's in Connecticut. He's part of our Leadership Institute, and he is a phenomenal, great player of the Elaine Breslow Institute here. I know we have Rabbi Jody Siff.
Hi. I'm Jody Sipp. I'm on the North Shore of Long Island.
And then the last person who's an 805 number.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi, I'm Rabbi Michelle Pascal. I'm in Simi Valley, California, and I did your rabbi's training program last summer.
Great. We're glad to have all of you guys. And like I said, we should have more joining, but for now we're going to start with our presentation. So Doug, please take it away.
So I'm just showing you guys and going through a little bit of this new curriculum that was developed in conjunction with it's the former head of Sinai Akiba, because for those of you that have been with us a while, you know, the old curriculum really was focused on, you know, prevention programs were all about social emotional wellness. That's what kids wanted to hear. They weren't into the science, and that was, you know, 14 years ago. Well, what's happened is there's been a shift in our culture, and the kids really, the thing that seems to be the most effective today is the science of it all. So I'll just show you a little bit about what I go through with them, and we'll go from there. You know, so one of the things when I'm first introducing myself is this picture, and I think pictures often help kids really connect and relate to people, because I think everybody has, my kid's homesick. Jack, I'm teaching a class on the thing. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
But I need to go. I need to teach the class, okay? No, you cannot play Fortnite right now. That was modern day parenting, right? So can you close the door, please? Love you. Go watch Oceans. Did you finish Oceans 11? Because you can do Oceans 12. And my wife, my oldest son and my wife both had the stomach flu last night. My middle child had it 2 weeks ago. And so my wife's at Beit today working because she has a gala thing. Anyway, that was a nice little pause break. Anyway, so everyone has this picture, I think. Everyone has the AYSO soccer picture of them growing up. I point out that we were cooler back then because we had the collars, which they don't really have anymore in the kids' leagues, at least out here. But I explained to them in the development of this program, they asked me to find the worst picture of myself possible, like the worst picture of myself. And so I went through all my pictures, and the worst picture of myself was this one. Right? And, you know, that's me trying to be cool or whatever. But it's changed a lot. Why don't I have pictures of me passing out in the bathroom or drunk on the floor or me sniffing cocaine, right? Anyone have an answer why I don't have those pictures of me?
You didn't want anyone to know.
Nope.
Or to be relatable.
Well, it's glorifying what you did.
Nope. This is 23 years ago. So this is 20 years ago.
You weren't doing that stuff yet.
No, we had cameras, not phones. No one was walking around. Everyone was not walking around with a permanent camera on their phone. It's a really interesting thing because Jessica, who many of you know I work with, she's 15 years younger than me, 10 years younger than me, and she has pictures of her passed out on the floor, falling down in vomit, because people had started to have phones back then. And I think it's a very subtle lesson, and it's an important one, just that everything gets captured on film today. Everything. Right? The reason why we don't have these horrible, horrible pictures, some of us of ourselves when we did really bad things, was people were walking around with these, this was a disposable camera. That was as good as it got. So it's an interesting thought, because I think when you look at what we're trying to teach kids from the Beit Tshuva angle, it's not just drugs and alcohol. It's all these things, like the fact that everything you do gets captured on camera. Everything. And I think for some of them, they're starting to understand that and get scared. So we move on. One of the things that we try to focus on is marijuana and alcohol and the effects that it has. And, they really relate to this scream because marijuana acts on regions of the brain that causes relaxation, a pleasant buzz, and memory loss, marijuana. But they can see that the marijuana abuser are normal. You can actually see the different effects. This actually has an effect because kids are much more into the science than they were 10 years ago. How less regions are active. And then you have a 16-year-old with 2 years of daily use, and then 18 years, 3 years of use 4 times per week, and just how affected it is. You guys able to see that? Then we get into, this is one of my actual favorite sides, because research shows that young people brains keep developing well into their 20s. Alcohol can alter this development, potentially affecting both brain structure and function. This may cause cognitive or learning problems and may make the brain more prone to alcohol dependence. This is especially a risk when people start drinking young and drinking heavily. What I love about this is this document down here. This is a 15-year-old non-drinker. We can see the areas of the region of the brain that are working, that are active. The next one is a 15-year-old heavy drinker. But the important thing to know is the drinker was sober when taking this test. What do you think when you see that? Anyone?
Frightening.
It's scary. But how do we, right? Our biggest challenge is, I've talked about this a lot, is I did a webinar, I think, on it. So pardon me for repeating myself, but how do we help our kids where our culture is one where heavy drinking is part of the culture? So I talked about this, how when we grew up, kids drank, young adults drank, and occasionally they drank too much, and, you have one or two kids which might drink too much on purpose all over and would, get sick or throw up. But what we've realized today is there's that type of drinking still, but what they've added is this other type of drinking, which is I am going to drink tonight to get as effed up and black out as possible. So when we're talking about this, we have to understand that when kids go out on a Saturday night, they have already made the decision. I'm going to have a couple drinks or I'm getting blackout drunk. That is the way, it's kind of like that's the activity that they choose between. Making sense?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, have you guys experienced this at all in your conversations with people, or those of you with kids?
Yep.
Okay, because that is what's happened. So the challenge on a educational end, on a therapeutic end, is I have a parent coming in this afternoon, because their kid 4 times in the last week has come back really, really drunk. And the parents are coming at it from, that's not okay. That's not normal. It's not okay. But I can't just do that, because the kid will immediately dismiss them. What do you mean it's not normal? This is normal. And so we're battling new normals. And we have to at least first recognize that it is a new normal, but also acknowledge that things that are normal aren't necessarily good. Can anyone think of any examples of something that was considered normal that was bad, that we turned out to be very bad?
Smoking pot.
Smoking pot, I think it's still a gray area, especially with the government legalizing it, but yes. Smoking pot is more normal today than I think it's ever been, by the way.
That's what I mean.
What else?
Cigarettes.
Right? Everyone smoked on airplanes. Remember those days? Cigarettes were normal for 80 years. What else?
Watch television and you watch any TV series, like Mad Men, all they're doing is just smoking cigarettes. If you watch any series right now, like Scandal or any of like the popular series, every scene has somebody with a drink in their hand.
Drink, yep, totally.
Every scene.
Yep. You know what I use? And you have to present it in a very respectful way, because it's a very obviously sensitive and deep subject. But I asked the question, if you were born in 1930, in Germany, and you were a blonde-haired, blue-eyed German, did you grow up to hate and kill Jews? Yeah, right?
Yep.
Because you were, now, if that same, I asked the kids this, if that same person was born in America, would they have grown up to hate and kill Jews? Probably not. And so we look at something that was culturally normal and how difficult, and really getting ingrained into how difficult it must be to be the one that stands up and says, this is not right. We shouldn't be doing this. This is not good. The movie The Truman Show is a great example of that, right? Which is you accept the reality with which you're given, for those of you that remember that movie. But we have to question, I try to empower them by asking these questions to question the world they're growing up in and being raised in versus just accepting it and going with the flow. Because if they're not questioning the world they're growing up in, we are going to get them hooked on everything. They're going to start smoking pot in high school because they're going to deal with their stress and anxiety that way. Then they'll pop an Adderall to focus. Then they'll take a Xanax to chill out. And then they'll have a drink at the end of the night to have fun. Then they'll feel sad, so they'll go on an antidepressant. Then they'll feel, anxious, so they'll go on a benzodiazepine. Then they'll have a stuffy nose and they'll go on a Sudafed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We are a culture that if we don't pause the button, we are going to be shoved down these numbing medications so we don't think about the choices we're making. And it's all about empowering them. The next slide. Drinking alcohol can cause kids to have accidents and get hurt. In 2011 alone, about 188,000 people under the age of 21 visited emergency rooms for alcohol-related injuries. So this slide we put in there because we kind of have to. And it's true, but this is not the biggest concern anymore. Thanks to Uber and the cultural shift, and this is what we're trying to do with alcohol and pot and everything else that we try to do. Because of the cultural shift that we have been able to do, drinking and driving is negligible. It's compared to what it was in the 80s and 90s. Did you guys see that? Yes, speak up. Nicole, do you drink and drive? Just kidding. Nobody's answering me.
Yes, I'm here.
There you are. So we don't deal with that as much. And so, but what I point out is the relationship of drinking and driving to what it was in the 80s. The new version of drinking and driving, which will affect every kid on some level, because of the way that they're drinking, this new way of drinking, blackout drunk, is this. Underage youth who drink are more likely to carry out or be the victim of physical or sexual assault after drinking than others their age who do not drink. Alcohol is involved in 90% of cases of sexual assault on college campuses. So, this, for any of you who have seen that movie, gosh, what was it called? What was the movie called? Does anyone remember the documentary? The Hunting Ground. Did any of you guys see that? No? Oh, it was the Academy Awards. It was the song that, it was a couple of years ago. It was the song that Lady Gaga sung, and all those women of sexual assault survivors came on stage with her. It is a very powerful movie. And it's about, sexual assault and the cover-up that happens. But if you take a culture that 18 to 22-year-olds are choosing to blackout drink, right, which wasn't happening 10, 15 years ago. and we knew sexual assaults were just getting information. Are we going to see a dramatic increase in sexual assault in the next 10 years because of the culture of drinking? Absolutely. You are more likely to be the victim of a sexual assault, and you're more likely to be the perpetrator of a sexual assault because you're blackout drinking. And they say alcohol leads to 744,000 assaults per year between people who are distantly acquainted with each other, and those are reported. How many happen that are unreported? And a culture where sexual assault and alcohol are so directly connected, we have to get them to understand that when you drink this heavily, this is a game changer for you. Drink it, right, when you drank that heavily in the 80s, you were more likely, it could be a game changer because you could lose your life, because you would be more likely to drink and drive. But now, this is the game changer. And for those that have never seen The Hunting Grounds, I would encourage you to do it. It's a, an hour-and-a-half documentary that really, really touches on the issue that we're facing. And this was even before the level of drinking. So, I'm going to see, have any of you ever seen this video?
No.
Oh, it's great. Let me see if I can. So when I say question society,
if you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, what cigarette do you smoke, doctor? Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be.
Did you guys all see and hear it?
Hear it, not see it.
Oh, you couldn't? I gosh, you got to see it. How do you not see it?
When you go to share, you can click what you want to share.
Okay, so I pick new share. Oh, got it.
If you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd
No.
find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out, many men of medicine usually means just long enough to.
So I go to this page. Now?
No.
Nothing.
You can't see it?
We just
see
see
the
the
PowerPoint.
slide.
You can see what?
The slide.
Okay. So maybe I have to stop share. Oh, stop share. It's holding that screen new though. And then I go share. It's too good. Now can you see it? Got it.
If you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, what cigarette do you smoke, doctor? Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good tasting a cigarette can be.
Isn't that crazy to watch?
It is crazy.
It's crazy, right? And that was normal, right? I mean, that was normal. Share the screen. Go back. There we go. Boom, boom. So the way that I try to use this is in conjunction with the risk from smoking, but really trying to focus on what does that mean for vaping? Because obviously we're dealing with an epidemic, correct? Yes? No.
Yes.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much for participating. We are dealing with an epidemic, and the epidemic is, I say this, like 50-year-olds are not walking into a vape shop and deciding, hey, I want to pick up a vape habit, right? But we have to start to apply common sense to what is happening. So I'll give you guys just the history on vaping. E-cigarettes were developed actually in China in 2004. They weren't commercialized in the United States until 2006. And if you remember, there were a handful of like commercials by low B-level celebrities that would do it. And it really was developed as a tool to help people quit from smoking. That was its goal, that was its purpose, and that's what they were hoping would happen. Well, obviously, that's not what happened, because what happened was they realized that there was a market for young people, because they weren't going to make enough money. They weren't going to make enough money in terms of selling vape to just people that wanted to quit smoking. They could get an entire new generation hooked. And so I honestly do not believe they intentionally marketed to children in the beginning. I believe children have always naturally, kids used to smoke in the bathroom at school, high schools, right? And children have always been inclined to for whatever reason, start smoking or doing these risky behaviors in some ways and being sneaky about it. And I think a handful of kids, picked up on that these were odorless and vaporless and it's not as bad for you as smoking. So they decided to start smoking. And, who knows, maybe some of them had parents that smoked and the parents said, you can't smoke, but you can do this. But then when they saw the kids were picking it up, then the money got invested in it and it became big, big business. So much so that obviously we are where we are now, which is, tens of millions of dollars, every week are spent on this stuff. And it's only growing. And, the myth is that nicotine is bad for you. Nicotine is not great for you. Don't fool yourself. It's not great for you, but neither is the sun in excessive quantities. But nicotine causes you to have a little bit elevated heart rate. Maybe it can, you don't relax as easy. But nicotine is not what's the worst thing in the world. The worst thing in the world, because some of these companies advertise that they're nicotine free. The worst thing in the world is that you're inhaling a substance that's burned into your lungs. That is what is very risky and dangerous. That is what causes problems. And so we have to reframe how we teach the youth about this stuff, because they don't believe it's harmful. They believe it's harmless. And we have to re-educate them on that. Makes sense? Good. Next. So, lastly, we all know this. Research has shown that teens who carry a high genetic possibility for mental illness run the risk of developing schizophrenia, which we're seeing more and more and more and more today from marijuana use, because one of the theories is that it is stronger and more potent than it has been in the past. And lastly, thank you. Say no to drugs and yes to pizza. So I want to open up the floor to questions before I just keep talking.
Does anybody have any questions for Doug?
I'm just wondering what kind of pushback you get from the kids. I mean, I'm a parent of a 13-year-old, and, you know, just if she were to see this, I mean, most of us know that no matter what, the kids are going to experiment.
Mm-hmm. I don't get a lot of pushback. Do you want me to tell you why?
Yeah.
Because it's how I present it. Because I'm not that parent, and I tell them straight up. Sometimes, depending on the school, I'll use a bad word, but I tell them, I don't care or give a SHIT what you do, because it doesn't affect my life. I'm leaving this classroom. I'm just giving you the information. I'm just giving you the information so you can make the best decision possible for yourself. It doesn't matter. You want to ruin your life, or not ruin your life, take the risk of ruining your life. It only affects you and your family. It does not affect me. And I really just try to distance myself as much emotionally, actually, from their decision making. Now, as a parent, it's a different conversation, right? I think as a parent, you know, they need to know that if I find this, I'm going to take it away. It's a 13-year-old, right? You also have to realize age, right? An 18-year-old that's vaping, what am I going to do about it? A 13-year-old that's vaping, I'm going to tell them they can. I'm going to take it away if I find it.
I just know, like, as a product of the 80s, like, I remember, like, the just say no thing. It didn't work. And it, like, although this is giving more like scientific evidence, I'm just wondering if, I don't know. Like, I know you're delivering it, so it's different, but.
Have you seen the new Just Say No video?
Sorry?
Have you seen the new version, what they redid out of SAMHSA?
No.
Let me see if I can find it. It was really interesting how they updated it, and it said a lot about where our culture was. So let me see. I'll play this one. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. This is so complicated, Nicole. Stop screen share. Okay. Now I'm going to screen share. Screen share. So here's the. Are we on?
Okay. Yes.
So this is the old PSA. It'll give you guys memory lane, right?
Okay, last time. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
You don't remember that one, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now you can still see my screen, hopefully.
This is your brain. This is heroin. This is what happens to your brain after snorting heroin.
This is not the right one. They ready to redo that. Hold on. Let me just find it. It was so good and so clever what they did. And it was so smart. I just gotta find it. It's usually on YouTube. I apologize.
I found it, Doug. You want me to share it?
Oh yeah, that's great. Can you do that?
Yeah.
So I'll stop screen sharing. There we go. Thank you, Nicole.
Can you guys see it?
Not yet. Yeah, there it is. That's it. This is the one.
Can you hear it though?
No, can't hear it. Should I mute myself?
No, Doug. Just I'm sending you the link here. Just do it on your computer. I just sent you the link.
And what thing? I need you to stop sharing it. Okay. I'm not gonna link. Exit full screen. You sent me the link?
Down in the chat.
In the chat on the thing or on iMessage?
On Zoom.
Okay, got it. So screen share, boom.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your...
Boom. Got it? And
Yeah.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
as you can see, who's talking about their 13-year-old?
I was, Katie.
Right, so
Katie.
They're gonna have questions nowadays, right? And the just say no model doesn't work because we're battling that whole concept of cultural normalcy, right? So we can't say no, don't do this when 50% or greater of the population is doing it. And with your daughter, a 13-year-old is in a different place. You really gotta I feel bad for the 13-year-olds today in that age group because I think we're starting a shift in the culture like we did with drinking and driving, but we're not there yet. And so it's gonna have to be you being the parents and acknowledging, listen, you're not gonna listen to a word I say, but it's your life. And they'll take some, that's the best way to do it is empower them to make the decisions.
I'm a mute now. I'm just curious if the take is the full on just say no versus these are signs of it becoming a problem.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about vaping or are we talking about?
I mean, I personally have already had the vaping conversation, but but the like, you know, if you know your kid's going to try some alcohol, let's just start there. So my instinct would be not to say, never try it, just don't do it, and you're going to this, you're, you know, like I don't think that it would be natural to be so extreme. But yes, give the information.
Yeah, but I also think you have to say for a 13-year-old, there's a time and a place for experimentation.
Right. Yes, I agree with you.
13-year-olds are too young.
Correct.
And that's where we have to get, you know, kind of like a little bit more detailed. You know, we all knew about the helicopter parents, right? You know what the new word is? The lawnmower parents.
What's that?
You guys haven't heard this yet?
No, I haven't heard it.
What is it? The helicopter parents hovers over their kid, so when they get into trouble, they bounce down and fix it. The lawnmower parent is what we are all becoming today, which is we anticipate problems and clear the road ahead of them before they get there.
Okay, Doug, it's Jody. My question about all of this is, I think it's very interesting in the sense of preventative stuff to have these conversations. But by and large, our culture in college campuses, especially, is the socialization is around drinking, and it's around that is the socialization, and the higher institutions of learning and the American concept is about the college experience, which is that it's not focused on the concept of learning. So to shift the entire, like we're talking about almost like small conversations with people, or even within congregations or JCCs or whatever, but in the sense of what they're going to be encountering on these campuses, and then how to form a social network and a community outside of this is very challenging.
Oh yeah, but I don't think you have to. I think you have to separate. I don't think it's one or the other.
I'm not saying it's one or the other, but if we teach this, and then they embrace this, and then they're placed in environments, which is by and large the case on these college campuses, that this is the way socialization happens, and there aren't other avenues for socialization, it's a very challenging place that you're putting these kids in. And I'm wondering, in the broader sense of how are we navigating those next steps?
Well, I think by having I think my goal has always been by having the conversation and kind of like saying, listen, this is what you will face. Like when I talk to sixth graders, right? And I tell them, listen, you're going to be around pot in 3 years all the time. And they're like, no way. And I'm like, trust me. And let's talk now about how not to do it in ninth grade per se. Same thing applies to this. I think these kids are around this type of drinking on a smaller level, but still by the time they're seniors in high school. And I think we want to, if we knew that our kids weren't blacking out drinking, and they just would go and have a few drinks at these social events and had the skills and the tools and the self-confidence to do that, I think that's a win in our current society. Would you disagree?
I wouldn't disagree, but I do think that these college campuses perpetuate this concept of the blacking out. They do not provide other models of support systems to be able to give kids alternative structures for building community.
Okay, so
they just don't.
Listen, I have knowledge of like kids in the frat system at like, you know, the Michigans and the Wisconsins of the world, right?
Not even at the Michigan. I could tell you in Ivy League schools, this is the case.
Oh, right. All of them.
I don't think I think it's everywhere. So my question is, how do we deal with more systematic change? And that's a broader question that I just have, is dealing with the concept of systematic change as these kids get older. And it's a big question about how to do that.
Well, Jody, you're asking about how do we change a culture?
Well, right.
And I think that is to me the biggest question to be asking right now.
Obviously, but I mean that's what he talked about in terms of why I mentioned culture earlier, is because we have this cultural normalcy. And, you know, I think you change the culture one person at a time, to be totally honest. But, you know, you look at the culture, you also have kids that are going into these systems, right? So let's say I'm talking about kids at the ZBT fraternity in Michigan, right? There are some kids that are at ZBT and they are blackout drinking. And there are some kids that have joined the fraternity and do not drink that way, even though people around them are doing it. So we have to focus on one at a time. Systematically, how do we do it? I don't have a clue. I mean, you want to vote for Doug? Lobby the White House? But I don't know how you do that. Are you there, Jody?
I'm here. I find that it's a very challenging conversation because it really doesn't, like I have kids who are really struggling about what it means to find community on these college campuses because they're not going home to their parents or being able to have other structures because that's the focus of what's going on these campuses, and that then it's hard for them to be successful because they don't have a community of people to be involved with. And the Jewish community is no better in this.
Right.
So I don't know if it's about like trying to deal on a systematic way of, you know, contacting colleges. I mean, it's almost like a next step almost.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I don't have an answer. I'm saying that
it's a great question, and that's what, you know, I can only affect. Listen, I'm in the prevention department. I go to schools. You know what I mean? I'm not a politician. I'm not one of these. You know, I just try to do it on a person by person basis, on a group by group basis.
Yeah.
But I feel it. I mean, obviously, that's why I talked about the whole not accepting the normalcy of the culture. And if you have,
yeah, I hear it.
I mean, I can just say that if you have, you know, 2 or 3 kids that can bond together, then it's good. Then they can create their own environment. But yeah, it's hard too. I think it also goes way deeper than just, I think it has to do with our culture as a society and what we value, which is materialism and narcissism. And I don't think social media is helping with that. I mean, I would love to get rid of all social media. The problem is that social media has become part of our economic revenue stream, and a significant one. But because I think that culturally makes people feel disconnected and angsty. I've gotten off of it. My wife hasn't. It's a big problem that this generation, listen, I have kids. There was an article I read, I forget where it was, maybe USA Today over the weekend. And this is what I see all the time. You have a high school graduate who's not willing to work for minimum wage. He'd rather live at home with his parents, he's 22, raising a kid with his wife, and he won't work for minimum wage. She's better than that. I mean, listen, I delivered pizzas my first 3 months out of college. It's a bigger problem that these kids, like, you know, it's like, it's all about excess, feeling good, I'm better than stuff. So the drinking, right, I think is one manifestation of that. When I grew up, like, you know, I mean, when we had speakers come to our school when I was like in middle school, and they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? In Beverly Hills, you know, these middle schools, everyone that knew what they wanted to be, if they wasn't like a professional athlete, was a doctor or a lawyer. Remember that, Evie? Everyone wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. You know what the kids say today when you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? entrepreneur, investment banker, venture capitalist.
Yeah, CEO.
What?
A CEO.
Yeah, CEO. Like they literally, right? It's like, it'd be great if one of them said doctor or lawyer, right? But they don't say it because they all go. And listen, that's how we've always been. Why do people say doctor or lawyer? Because they went after the money. Hey, Al, you know what the big one is nowadays too? Which I hear from kids going off to college? Engineering. I said, do you know what an engineer does? They're like, no. So why are you applying to an engineering school? I don't even know what an engineer does. But I mean, I hear it all the time. It's shocking.
They develop apps.
What?
They develop apps and new tech software.
Or robots or AI.
Or apps. It's coding.
Well, I mean, it's crazy. And so this one boy I'm working with, like, he's applying to colleges, and I'm like, he's saying engineer because that's what he thinks his parents want, but he doesn't want to be an engineer. He should go to the regular school where he's applying. And finally I convinced him because it's just this culture of, it's part of the whole culture, Jody. The drinking in the college campuses and the lack of community is because they're all chasing this fictitious dream of narcissism stuff and self-promoting and feeling good all the time. That's why if you can have a couple people, I mean, we need a huge cultural shift. And I think us in the big cities experience it the most, but I think I know a lot of other people in the middle do too as well. It's everywhere. And it's sad. It scares me for my kids. It scares me and terrifies me. But I think if we hit them one person at a time and can help one person at a time feel better, I think then that's a win. Any last questions?
Does anybody have any final questions for Doug? Hello? Anyone?
Anyone want to watch Ocean's 12 with me after this?
Do you do presentations at synagogues outside of LA?
All the time.
Okay. We'd be interested.
I would love to come.
I'd be happy to connect you. Jessica and Freedom Song, actually, right now, they're on an East Coast Midwest tour.
Yeah.
They're in Chicago, Cleveland, New York. So if you're ever interested, I can hook you up with Jessica or Doug.
Yeah, I've been talking to Jessica, but I think that we want something smaller scale.
Yeah, and this is smaller scale. And this, because the kids are one thing, but I think a lot of it has to be messaged to the parents as well.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what to communicate and how to communicate and just you have to understand the world they're in. If you don't connect to the world you're in, you're done. If you try to say this is not normal or what are you doing? Like if we parent from the world we grew up in, we've already lost the conversation.
Right.
And I think a big part of it is the lawnmower parenting thing too. Let your kids walk to the park. Let them stumble. Let them fall down. Yes, we develop the skill. We develop the ability. The reason why I can log online and book a flight and get it right 99 times out of 100 is because the first time I did it, I booked a flight to the wrong city on the wrong day.
Right.
And I had to call and sit on hold with some guy in India for United for 45 minutes trying to get them to cancel the ticket. And I now know that you have 24 hours to cancel the ticket.
Right.
right? But that, I mean, literally that process of learning, we are denying our kids. The same thing applies to drinking, right? I mean, or anything, like waking your kids up for school. If your kid can't wake themselves up by the time they're a senior, they should not be going off to college.
Right. It's a problem.
But if we back off, they step up. I have a kid, I'm not kidding you. When I was driving here to do this, I was on the phone with a mother whose son is at Berkeley, engineering program, and he's miserable. But he kind of had a nervous breakdown last night or 2 nights ago and ended up in the psych unit. And then I talked to him yesterday and he sounded fine. And his dad flew up there to be with him. And like, you know what it was? He's as relaxed as could be. And he said, I got somebody cooking for me. I got somebody cleaning for me. I can read books all day like I like to do. And I don't have any responsibilities. And he says, my mom and dad did everything. They cleaned my room. They had my tutors. They made sure I did my homework. They made sure I ate food, all these things. And he never developed a skill set. Now, that's obviously an extreme, but I think it's happening more and more on a smaller level. And when you do that, it takes away their sense of self-esteem. Anyway.
All right.
Nicole, close it out.
Final question.
You can email Nicole or Jessica or me directly about coming out there. Where are you?
Okay, thanks. In Florida. South Florida.
Where? Boca?
Boca.
Love. You know, I went to the best sushi restaurant I ever had when I was in Boca once.
With the gold on it. I remember you told me.
Gold? He put gold on it.
I remember you told me this way back in the day.
Sushi Go or something like that?
Sushi Go-Go?
Yes.
Sushi Go.
Sushi Go-Go. He put gold on it. Real gold.
It's Boca.
That's right. All right.
All right, thank you.
Everyone.
Bye, Abby. Bye, Jody.
Bye-bye.